everyone, and welcome to this broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sunday Night Live. We are live here in the house today. Mark DeJesus in the house. Also right over here nearby, my amazing wife and co-host, the lover of my life, all that is... Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get your mic on.
I'm here.
All that I cling to.
Yes.
I love you, hon. Thanks for being here. This is great. And I'm excited to be here tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. We've got some great stuff in store for you. We'll get into that in just a moment. I'm going to talk about the subject of narcissism, the Bible, and the Christian life. What does that look like? And how can we understand this subject? And is it in the Bible? Is it even there? And can we even understand what the Bible might be saying about it? I'm going to get into all that and some good stuff. Going to do some very biblical insights tonight. So for those of you that are looking for that, you're going to get it. And we've got some good announcements to make. Some good things to share and talk about. So, my love, would you like to just give a greeting to all the people that are in the live chat, or some of them? Or?
Yes, I mean, we have a lot. It's so great. I love when people say where they're from too.
Yeah.
Of course, our lovely Jennifer Bailey. We love her.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Jessica Freeman. Stacy, Lucas the Prussian. Hello from South Germany. I love it. David Jenkins from the suburbs of Chicago. Jess N, colorful thinker. I like that they call me Aunt Melissa. Ayo. Joanne Fetzer from Northeast Tennessee. I love that. Katie S. Yay. Katie, we love you. Thank you. Ivy. I am Kia or Kaya. I know you told me. And now, yes, I'm going to have to go back and look. And I apologize. I'm sorry. HS, Marty, Adrian, Ramona, Jesus is Lord, 777. That's my number, okay? Because that's my birthday.
It is?
Emmy Reed. Yes, 7th, December 7th.
Oh, December 7th. Gotcha.
Yes, that's my birthday.
That's
Pearl
right.
Harbor Day, for those of you that didn't know.
Right.
Emmy Reed.
You're very American by your hat there.
I know. Well, here's the thing, y'all. I had a little pre-sun cancer zapped off the forehead, so we have some stuff going on there. So it's a hat day.
It's all good.
Yeah. Robin, Tango Bravo, Neon Eagle Spirit.
When I hear Tango Bravo, I want to add in Echo. Tango Bravo, Echo.
Margaret, I could keep going. B. Jones.
Fantastic.
Bethany, Val, Champ. I like that one. Champ, I like that. Mm-hmm.
Miriam. We are also broadcasting on Rumble, so feel free to jump over there if you like. And there will be some broadcasts in the future, somewhere in the future.
Where did we hear that?
It was at a conference.
That's right. The worship pastor.
Yeah,
was saying that.
He was saying it as like a prophetic exhortation. He's like, you're somewhere in the future.
And you look much better than you do right now.
That's it. Yeah. So, and then we just kept singing it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's like one of those things that gets stuck in your head.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. But anyway, somewhere in the future, I will be probably doing some subjects that I'll be addressing will be Rumble only subjects. So, drum roll. Let's see. We'll let you know. Lord willing and the creek don't rise. So, anyways, I wanted to give just a thank you to all of you that are tuning in live. Those of you that send such supportive emails, encouraging emails. And I have a question that I want to kind of jump off with our discussion today. Who knows where it's going to go?
I know, right?
But I have this thought that's been marinating, and it's this: is there, all of you that are in the stream, all of you that are watching this recording later or listening to it or whatever you do, is there something you enjoyed doing that is a habit, a hobby, just something that's relaxing or fun or enjoyable or refreshing that your mental health struggle or your emotional or just whatever you're going through it had a way of robbing that from your life in your journey. And so what I know about for me is that when I was in high school and going into college, I loved sports. I loved basketball. I loved playing basketball. I loved watching basketball. I loved playing football. I didn't play like tackle football, but like with your friends and stuff like that. I loved watching football, baseball, a bunch of sports. As anxiety, obsessive, compulsive increased more and more as a struggle in my life, it's like all of that went away. Like I couldn't enjoy it. I couldn't be present in it. I couldn't, take opportunity in it. I used to, I was never a good golfer. So I never want to establish that, but I would enjoy playing golf every now and then. And when you're in the pastoring world, if you don't know this, I'm going to let you in on it. Historically, I don't know, maybe times maybe have changed, but a lot of pastors like to golf. It's kind of a thing, and a lot of people people use golf as like a general way of connecting. And so for me, a lot of those things got stolen, and then I feel as God's had me on this healing journey, some of those things come back, and they come back in ways that they can kind of have their place, and they can be places of refreshment and enjoyment. The reason I bring that up is because recently, and you know this, hon, is we got our son the Jurassic World Evolution game.
What's it called again? I can't remember.
Jurassic World Evolution.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because then the one on the phone is...
yeah, that's a different app.
That's a different one.
Yeah.
I get confused.
But we gave it a try to see, okay, it's got dinosaurs in it, but then we realized it's very technical. You're building a whole island. It's very responsible. Like you have a budget, you have to build things, and then you harvest the animals. And Abby and Max both really
they love it. You have to figure out money and feed your dinosaur. It's quite
to the point that I walked in the room one day and Abby was all stressed out. I go, what's going on? She goes, Dad, I got $1 million budget and I'm going to be over budget.
It's more than that. Yeah.
She's like, is this what real life with money is like? This is very stressful.
She was very stressed.
I was like, calm down. So anyways, both of them are just experts at this. They've gone, I got it started.
They got the YouTube channel up of what you have to do and build. And then Max is drawing maps of
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
So it's really it's really tapped into Max's love of dinosaurs, but it's also very you have to be strategic. You have to think. To me, it's really interesting in how it works. So anyways, I'm very hesitant. How much do you let video games kind of branch out as a parent? When do you let that happen? And so I had this thought. I said, well, if we've got this game system, why don't I look at a game that I would like to play? And I'm not much of a gamer. I know a lot of people that can be gamers, or I've interacted with plenty of people that are passionate about it. And I said, let me just try a game that I would really like. And went through a couple of them, and one of them I really liked is a golf game. It's just, but it's like a PGA. You can play against the real players. You can play on real courses and all that. I found it to be very relaxing and very enjoyable. And it also, Abby took a real interest in it. So now she's got a golfing bug in her. And
yeah, she's pretty into it. Yeah.
Now her big thing is she wants to beat me in a match.
Right. Then you took her and our niece to Top Golf.
That's what I was going to share next. Yeah. Went to the driving range and got them to actually see how hard it is to hit a golf ball. And but for me, now I'm not a good golfer. At the driving range, I was like, wow, my swing is it has a demon in the swing. It needs deliverance. I have a slice that is so so hard. And anyway, but I found a reconnection back to the enjoyment of it. My golf clubs were sitting in storage, never brought out. And I was like, wow, there was a season where that was something that was enjoyable, and they got lost in the midst of all my trying to work through all my issues and all my struggles. And I think that for many of you watching and listening, there may be something, whether it's a certain book reading routine or just a certain routine or something that you enjoy, but your battle kind of takes it away because you get lost in your anxiety, you get lost in your spinnies or whatever. I bring this up as a question that it could be God could be restoring. It could be God could use that enjoyment as a place of refreshment, right? There's many things that people say all the time. Like, honey, one of the things I noticed that you like is your gardening, which is
Let me tell
amazing.
you, I am developing a green thumb. I did not have one for a super long time. Oops, sorry. I'm having mic issues again. It's just this. Mark is like, this is the story of my life. Yeah, can you fix it for me, boo?
Keep talking.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm obsessed. And I'm at this place too where I'm like, because we've just like bought the plants and stuff. And now I'm kind of going, I think I need like a mini greenhouse so that I can grow my own little flowers and then plant them in the things and put them where I want to put them or whatever. So I'm excited about that. But with like gaming stuff, see, I come from when the like Game Boys came out.
Tetris.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. So when I was single years ago and I worked in Connecticut, most people work in insurance because that's just what you do. I would come home and literally not take my coat off, get my Game Boy out, and I would sit with Tetris till it was dark. So like those kinds of games. So I'm like a Candy Crusher. I like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And you've been encouraging me, like, do other things. If you're going to do something, like, do other things, which is true because then I can just sit there on the phone and.
Or you can branch out.
Yes.
You know, where it's
get
like
the mind to go.
It doesn't have to
creatively.
be. It doesn't have
Right.
to be just one thing, because there is a lot of things in video games that actually can help stimulate thought process and strategic things and stimulate the brain in good ways. Yeah, it can be anything can be an addiction. Anything can get overboard.
Who just said to me about the house plants? It just went fast. Somebody said something
You're
about
like
house
you're
plants.
like, give me a tip. You got a tip? You
Yeah,
got a tip?
because I'm not good with the house plants. I have one. Okay, Megan, I'm not good with the house plants. I have problems with it. I kill them. I don't know when to water, not to water. And then you found an app for me, babe, where you can take the picture of, because I bought a plant that was like fully grown at some little town market thing we went to.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can do this. Well, then the leaves started to dry up. I think I was overwatering it. I don't know how much sun it needs. I'm not good with the house plants. I'm not. So any advice, I'll take it.
So on the De Jesus property, it is Mark is on the grass, and he's all about the grass.
Yeah.
Which ties into golf, by the way, because when I see a golf course, respect on the grass. And you are all about the plants, the gardens, the little bushes, things like that. And it is true. For so long, you said, I don't have a green thumb. And it was like, boom,
Yep.
you actually do.
I had to just go for it and do it. So now we have the raised garden bed, which you built for me, which is awesome. And I'm doing good. Some of the plants did not do good last year, but you know what? We are moving forward this year.
And Max now has one, which we mentioned.
Yeah, he's so cute.
What's he growing there again? Some of them were already like showing. It was
He wanted watermelon, pumpkins, strawberries.
That's so Max.
Yeah. What else? And green beans, because your parents had one for him in Connecticut that he was really into.
Yeah.
So he wanted to do that because your parents really encouraged him with the green beans.
And
although we can't get him to eat them.
Yeah, right.
But that's a whole other story.
Right. It turns into World War III. Any kind of vegetable, like we'll get him to eat like one piece of a cucumber.
Yes.
That's another story. Remember when he was very young, and he was showing those signs of like not eating, a lot of things. And I did the like stand down, like, no, we're going to sit here until it kind of did that. Like, I'm going to play hardball. I'm going to sit here. And we were sitting there for a few hours.
Well, he's very particular, and it can get ugly when he doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to get those vegetables in. We're like bribing.
But no, I was thinking of it, and I don't know if you want to share this about your golf, but like,
yes.
Golfing for you was a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
In Connecticut too.
It does have a mixed history with me because golfers are very. There's like a culture of golf that's very intimidating. First of all, you get on the course, and
it feels snooty. I'm not going to lie, it feels snooty.
Correct. It is. It is, no matter where you go. And so I tend to find the one that like, oh, okay, I feel like that guy's a little more normal. I'll play where he's going, you know? It creates this stress. And a lot of times, I have a couple funny stories that come to mind.
Oh, I know we do.
But when talking about pastors, right? You have these pastors gatherings, right? And in the Assemblies of God, you have these, gatherings that they have, and it's all these, Reverend so-and-so and all these, people, and you get the higher ups and all that. And they would have these golf outings. And I was like, oh, how can I get out of this? Because it's just stressful. Because you're like talking to these guys, and I was very young at the time too. So they're like, who's this kid, And I remember I was with one of like the district officials, one of the higher ups. He was on the group of four, the foursome that were playing. And I was just nervous. And so as you do, you're at the tee and you just kind of take practice swings, right? And I'm taking practice swings. I'm just nervous. I'm in my head. And I take a practice swing and I hit a chunk of grass, which is fine when you're actually hitting the ball. You do hit especially with an iron, you hit a chunk of grass. Well, I hit a chunk of grass, and it's about the size of my hand, goes flying up, and hits this district official right in the face. I mean, right here in the face, and I'm humiliated. I'm just absolutely humiliated. And looking back, it would have helped me if he maybe just laughed it off, because I was so humiliated. But you could see that, I disturbed.
He was getting biblical on you.
He got very biblical on me. It was like, he's like, yeah. If he had a British accent, it would have been like, "Young man, show some restraint."
Oh goodness!
He would have given me some Prince Charles, King Charles, right? Isn't it King Charles now?
Yeah. Oh, please, that whole drama.
So anyway, then it happened where I was trying to be on the side, and I don't know if he moved or something, but I did it again, and it like a piece.
Oh, you did not do it twice.
I did. It did twice. Yeah.
Why? You know what though? I'm sorry. I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah. So I wanted to crawl into a hole and die. The shame of the moment wanted to make me go hide. But speaking of shame,
you need to talk about your dad on the golf course real quick. Can you please?
I'm gonna have to throw him under the bus because I don't know what it is. I think it's because I have a half brother, Tony, that I grew up with. He loves golf, and he's actually pretty good. And I think it's my dad's way of okay, let's get the three of us together. We'll at least do that, right? And but he doesn't understand some of the rules, because when you play golf, when you're at a hole and you hit off the tee box and you hit out, right? You kind of have a window in time that you need to do your next shot. Now for amateurs, you spend a lot of time sometimes going in the woods because you're going to hook it into the woods or slice it into the woods, right? So you have to do a little searching. Well, I have this thing where I'm like, okay, there's a certain time limit where they're on the tee box. You can see them waiting to hit, and you can only fish so much. So, but my dad, he's like, I hit that golf ball out there. I paid. I'm going to go find it. So I'm standing there oh my goodness. I'm just like, Dad, I'll give you a ball. I'll just give you a ball. Just let it go. No. I think Mark, I think I found it's in the other side. I'm like, Dad, you're basically out of bounds. These guys, we're going to get kicked off the course. I'm like, my whole childhood is getting stressed out right now.
It's the best.
Yeah, and I'm like,
and your dad, when he has it in, it's he cannot be moved.
Yeah.
Nope. He's nope. They're gonna wait, and I don't care.
I'm gonna. I'm gonna take my time. So then I will get stressed, and then I'll just hit the ball faster. Just keep it moving. Let's just get space behind us. So I started hoping that our tee times would be booked when no one was there. Because then if no one's behind, then I'm like, okay, you go in the woods and. And then he's like, Mark, look, I got three. I got someone else's ball too.
Oh my God.
And he's like he got a prize. I got a whole collection. So it's like I got a prize.
He loves it too. He's like,
And he's a cheater. Oh my.
Oh yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
We'll be walking away and he's like, I got a 5. I'm like, a 5? I'm like, that's a 10, maybe 5 plus 5. Is that what you meant?
Oh my goodness.
That was like a
so
10.
Fun, though.
So anyway, so I'm sitting there playing the video game with Abby, which tonight, after we're done with the broadcast, she's like, Dad, I want a match. I'm like, you got it, girl. It's just great because it's a great bonding time for us because isn't that what it's all about? And but I've been thinking about this thing because I feel like I want to, there's more like physical activities I want to do and explore, and I think of many people in our tribe, like in our mental health journey, we get super serious and we can lose enjoyment. And part of healing is guarding enjoyment and guarding those things. And so, so anyways,
it's so fun.
but my golf swing needs prayer. And so if everybody could just lay your hands on the screen and just,
we'll need to go to Topgolf more.
yeah. I would like to see what you have in store. We're gonna bring you. And
okay.
We're gonna see what happens.
It's been a while. Okay.
I have one of those thoughts that like, maybe like some mysterious thing, like you hit the ball a mile, and it's like,
Right.
oh, we have a whole new thing that's gonna be that we never even knew.
Right. We'll tap into it. Oh my
Do you ever wonder that, like, are there certain things that if parents were aware or instilled, right? So like you see like professional golfers, you see like Tiger Woods, his dad was instilling golf when he was like, could as soon as he could breathe. But you're like, you wonder what kind of abilities, if in childhood there was awareness or opportunities or even just parents paying attention to certain things,
just paying attention. That was
well, my parents would look at, like, I was very passionate about music, theater, and those kind of things. I think if I look back and I was like, I love to teach and stuff, I probably would have gone more into the arts. If some of those, if I didn't realize that ministry wasn't just being a pastor, right? That like it can go into a lot of areas. I mean, no regrets. God used my journey, but it is interesting. Of like, you think about your childhood, like what things, if it was open up. Like, remember you told me the story about you'd host little theater plays when you were a kid.
We did. Full-on costumes, because our next door neighbor was in theater, so we would we made like a platform out of plywood and all this stuff, and they were awesome because they fed it in their own kids. Well, okay, my mic is messed up again, boo. I don't know what's wrong with it. Do you see what it's doing? It's just
well, the sound is okay. I get what you're saying. It's like it's the weight of it because it's wanting
just
to
like wanting to fall.
Yeah,
anyway, okay, well, as long as I'm fine. We would do these plays and we would write scripts and all this stuff. And my parents just weren't good at encouraging those things. Like, I love the violin. Who doesn't love the violin?
Oh.
I started to play the violin, and when it got hard, they were like, you want to quit? Girl Scouts, you want to quit? Actually, it was the Brownies first. I don't think I made it to Girl Scouts. You want to quit? Yeah, they just let me quit everything.
Right.
So that's why, it's always that fine line when you're a parent of pushing your kids, like, no, you're going to commit to this. Because I was never, it was like, okay, fine. And I think they were just like, great, I don't have to drive you.
Yeah, and
I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to hear the violin.
It can like reinforce the quitter.
Yes.
Which we all have a quitter in us. And it takes like moments where somebody goes, nope, stick with it.
Yeah.
Or B, when somebody goes, hey, I believe in you. You can do this. How much of a difference does that really make?
Yeah.
When somebody believes in you. I told this story because my high school coach he had somewhat of a fathering kind of figure to me. And I got injured a lot, and I'm like up here, very smart about like sports or strategy. I make a better coach than necessarily a player. I was always getting injured. I wasn't as fast, whatever. But one of the times when I was injured, he made one statement to me where he said, Mark, if I had 5 of you on this basketball court, we would have an amazing team.
Aww.
Right. Now, whether he meant it or he was just trying to be encouraging or whatever, that stuck with me, and it instilled confidence in me. That was unbelievable. Like just one moment of encouragement. what that would have made if somebody noticed you doing the theater and said, hey, this is really good.
Gosh,
do you
my
guys
whole
want to
life
do
would have
this
been
more?
different.
Of like, hey, because the violin sounds terrible for a while until you get it. It's
Yeah. Let me tell you something. My dad, years ago, he took us to the Ayani concert. And I swear I was going to start bawling my eyes out because I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. And the violinists are like a big part of, I mean, just amazing. I wanted to cry, and then I was like in self-pity because I'm like, maybe I could have played like that.
Right.
Probably not. But you know, when like you have those things from childhood that you're like, why didn't my parents have me stick with the violin?
Right.
Whatever.
Right. Right. Anything else with the comments or anything like that?
I mean, it's just great. Everyone's chatting awesome. They're loving the topic and topics.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, we can get back to anything if you need to, but I do want to take a minute to share with everybody that this has been long in the making, but we are ready to go ahead and launch it. It is active now. I have been talking to you for, some time about the healing and freedom community that is going to be happening as of now. You can sign up today. So if you go to markdejesus.com, you can find all the information about it. Right at the top, there's a tab there that used to be courses, and it now says community. And if you go there, it will lead you to a page. It has a video presentation that I go through and shares with you. This is a community, an invested community. It's a membership that you join for those that are like, I want to be a part of something where the teachings that Mark is giving and providing, I want to be able to have a sense of support, to feel that I'm not alone, and we're doing our best to build a tribal connection within that. And so I'm going to share with you 3 things that are going to be available in this site. And there's many of you that provide donations to support these broadcasts, that helps to support these broadcasts. This is going to be a membership site. So this is going to be something that is for those that are wanting aspects of these 3 things. The first thing is you will have access to all of my online courses, everything. Now, I have 2 courses that are free, and they'll stay free. One of them is my online course on healing from spiritual abuse, which that will continue to be a resource that is free, that is there. And 2 is the volume 1 of the healing and the heart healing journey, volume 1. So those 2 will still remain. You'll still be able, we're still going to offer the free copy of Experiencing God's Love as Your Father. Of course, you're going to have access to all the broadcasts and the library and all the stuff that's out. All that, none of that's going to change. But there's going to be 3 things in this community that I'm thrilled about. One of them is to get access to all the online courses, and that includes video and audio. I have some audio courses, teaching series that I went through. Those will all be available there as well too. So it'll be jam-packed. Some of those audio courses I'm going to, at some point, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I will be making them into video content. I'll be upgrading them, bringing them into the here and now with improved insights and perspectives and so forth. So access to that, certainly the ability to ask questions about the courses and so forth. The second part will be, I'm going to be doing, many of you have been so blessed by the Q&As that I've done. I've gone into the trenches, gone through a lot of subjects. I get super biblical. I get super psychological, or just going into your specific battles. Well, I want to roll up my sleeves, and I want to keep my eye out for people that are wanting to do the work. And so as a part of this community, I'm going to do regular live broadcasts where I'm going to do Q&As of questions and interact with people that are a part of this community, so I can support your journey. The third thing is something that I'm very excited about, is that within the online structure of this membership, there's a social community in there. So you'll be able to upload a picture of yourself, get to know other people, share some things. You'll be able to ask questions, interact. That is a part that I'm really thrilled about, because it gives us a focus area where it's like, hey, this is where we're going to bring our energies. We're going to talk about the materials. This is where I'm going to share a lot of, like, even some of the stuff that I I navigate, in my own journey, things that have helped me. I'll post stuff there that I'm not going to post anywhere else. I may even get into what are some recent books that I'm reading or things that are helping me, and interact with you at that level. So if you join now, there's a discount for the first month, and then it changes price going into the next month. The price will adjust at some point, but this is where we want to launch it at. And this, again, is for people that are like, you know what, I'm all about this, and I want to feel that sense of support and even somewhat of connection, that I feel like I can, do some interaction and be able to have some help for my journey. And the way that I framed this membership is, I wanted it to be something that when I look back 20 years ago and I look back at what I was going through and what I felt like I needed, what were some of the things that would have helped? What were some of the things that did help? And what could that look like? And so that's the motivation behind this. Again, you can join now. You can go to markdejesus.com and just click on that community button. Right at the top, it'll take you to a lead page. It'll give you all the information that's involved and how to get moving. And when you sign up, there's a couple questions we'll have in the social area that you can see and post your answers to. We'll get the ball rolling. And I do plan on having a live Q&A in the next week or two to get things started. We want to get like the interaction happening, get some of that going, and then move towards having Q&As and the recording of the Q&As. We'll provide those. So if you can't make the live time, and we'll try some different times, we'll see what works. And even if you can't make it, the recording will be available to you. So my whole point in this for me is I want to target the areas that are utilizing the grace and energy that's best to focus in. And because I get lots of questions, lots of emails, I want to help as many people as I can, certainly. But I also like the beauty of being small in my focus of like, here's where I'm going to be addressing my energies. So take advantage of that. And when, as the community launches within the next month, I will be teaching on the book, my latest book, The OCD Healing Journey. So that will be a new course. That will be the first new course that will be launched. I've got other stuff in mind too down the road, like some mental health topics. Of course, I'm doing a lot of mental health stuff in the years ahead, a lot. So I'll be getting into the areas of trauma. I'll get into some stuff on depression that I'm hoping to do, some stuff about addictions that I want to get into to bring what has been so helpful. But the OCD healing journey, I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time just navigating through that. And of course, today you can even go to our topics page. Of course, that's still there. The OCD help page, that's there. No matter whether you're part of the community or not, that is still there, and that will be there for your life, for your journey. So with that said, I think we need to take a dance break. Can we do that? Oh, hold on. I had you. There we go. I think we need a dance break, unless you've got something.
No, I said go ahead, go for it.
Oh.
Sorry, boo.
So I'm going to talk about narcissism in a little bit. So
Ayo.
a lot of people,
Good topic.
a lot of people are children of the 80s. So let's take a dance break with maybe some 80s music. How's that? embarrassed my wife there now. And we're back.
Sprinkler, and I think that you should have done the sprinkler. Can you do the sprinkler? Can I just share something very sweet? Is that yesterday...
The sprinkler.
You might have to look up the move. Anyway, yesterday we were out for the day, and...
oh, you're going to tell this. You're going to tell
I'm sorry.
You're going to tell a secret.
So...
Okay.
My daughter and my niece, they pull up and they do these little dances and stuff. And my niece she's just awesome at for her dance team and the dance studio she belongs to. And she's just awesome. And she picks up stuff so fast. So the girls were doing little dance things on the deck. So Mark decided to join them because, long story, but we do family videos every year, and Mark is amazing at producing them, and we try to come up with new creative things, and he wants us to learn an 80s dance or a Backstreet Boys dance.
Like a 90s, yeah.
90s, sorry.
Yeah. And I can't seem to get it in my head of how could we do it where Max could at least
could
do some of it, but then I'm thinking even me, I'm some of these joints get a little rickety, so.
Right. So you had found a section of a Backstreet Boys dance.
It was actually In Sync.
Was it? I thought it was Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, no, it was
that move. Okay, anyway.
Oh, you're talking about the move
with what's that song? What is the song? Oh my goodness. Where Nick Carter's with the arms. I'm sitting here, I cannot do it.
I want it that way.
Oh yeah, I want it that way. So Mark wanted the moves from there. So my niece, they pulled up an instructional dance video, and
okay,
my niece.
That's a different thing. So I was sharing with you
that
I saw a move, and I go, "Is it like this?" And I did it, and everybody started dying.
I was dead. I'm I'm dead. I am dead. Mark with his big Norwegian shoulders, Viking shoulders, I call them. It was hilarious. It was so amazing. And my niece was no, she was really trying to teach him and my daughter. So Mark was trying to learn a dance because we're going to learn a dance for our family video.
Yeah. And so the video that I showed her was, I said, well, what does it look like to do? Does anybody have a tutorial? Because,
yes, reality is best. I never want to hear you say. I'm dead.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
All right.
Are you going to do it? Oh my gosh.
Okay. You can't make...
I can't right now. I'm going to go out hysterical.
You can't make fun of me completely though.
Wait, which one are you going to do? The arms?
It's just a simple move, but I was like...
You have to do the
It was just like this. Ain't nothing but a heartache. I can't. I'm just... Ain't nothing but a heartache.
Do it from the side,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing but a heartache.
Oh my gosh! I wish we could play the music. We'd get hit with a copyright thing. But,
Yeah. We'd probably get hit with a lot of things.
A lot of things, yeah.
Probably tomatoes.
Yep.
So everybody had a good laugh, and then
It was so funny, but the girls loved it, and yeah, it was fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well...
How did we just get on that? What happened?
Well, you brought it up. And
I did. No, but sorry.
So now I'm thoroughly embarrassed.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm not. No, it's fine. Everybody had a good laugh, though. So then she was trying to... It was... I'm watching the delay of me and the... Hold on, I gotta block.
I was laughing.
I gotta block this because.
To watch yourself.
Well, if you guys don't know, especially now that we're broadcasting on Rumble, there's a significant delay.
Oh, there is.
In the timing where what we're shooting here that I see here on this screen versus what's there.
Oh my gosh. Mark, now do you see what I'm talking about? It was you're all shoulders, you're literally all shoulders, and then the arms go.
Yeah. So so Lily was like, yeah, you're doing it wrong, but I'm not sure what to tell you.
Dude.
So anyways.
It was funny. It was fun and it was precious and you were awesome. You were being a great uncle.
Well, it's fun. And I need to learn how to have fun, and we all need to learn
and then
how
you were like, I'm so sore.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's where I was like, okay, I'm getting older and I probably need to do more of these things because I got to keep these muscles. I got to keep these muscles working. So anyways, where are we?
I don't even know.
Where am I?
Let's get to the narc.
How did this
Let's
even...
talk about the narc.
Anyone who has like a severe religious spirit, they checked out a long time ago.
I know. They're like,
what are these people doing?
2 fruitcakes.
Well,
well, for those of you hanging in, thanks.
For those of you hanging in,
We'll get to it an hour later.
I could
Bring it.
just for good old time's sake. Well, you can. Come on. Somebody needs a breakthrough today. Yep. I want that to just keep going. Hey!
Here we go. This is my jam right here.
Where's your tambourine?
Oh my goodness. I didn't get one. I need to get one. Here we go. There we go.
There's Belt Buckle.
I love him.
So funny story, Belt Buckle, when we were looking at the tagging where YouTube automatically tags,
So funny.
they actually tagged a section, they called it Belt Buckle.
And pink shirt. They called it pink shirt and then belt buckle.
That is awesome. That is great. That is great. I
really hope, honestly, that we sent traffic to their channel and that, because the dude can rip it.
Jeremiah Yoakum. Yeah.
Like we really love it. Yeah.
So here's what I like about our relationship. And I feel like, I don't know how this happened. I think maybe just make room for it. Is you and I can laugh and have some good laughs.
Yes.
And I don't know what happened to you, but I felt like as soon as I hit that video, I was right in it.
Yes.
I was like right in it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Where there's no like warm up in the sense of like just connecting to the beauty of just a praise moment or something like that.
Yep.
You know,
I love it so much.
I had another thought and I forgot anything in the comments or anything.
I think people are just awesome. Jessica said, "Get your blessing."
It's just
Yeah, creative learning. I love when he sings, "I'm gonna live forever." Yes, like fire. It's the whole thing is so good.
Yeah.
And somebody said, I think it was Nancy, and she has a tambourine. I hope you take it out when this comes on. But I need to get me a tambourine. Can you put that on our to-do list and our Amazon list?
I really think that I'm gonna put you on the spot. I really think during the dance breaks you need to have a tambourine and you need to
join you.
I'm gonna put you on that.
You know what my 80s move would be though? It's this one. It's like where you do the hands and it kind of slides in.
Okay.
Yeah, y'all 80s people know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Somebody had said to me this made me laugh. They said, Mark, you're a Pentecostal from the waist down, but a Baptist from the waist up. I was like, that is so funny.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yes, the Carlton move. Thank you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to kind of go for that, but
Yeah. We have to practice this week. We need to.
it's all good. I have the heart.
You do.
And not necessarily the expertise.
That's all right, boo.
All right. Well,
fun.
let me, that was great, hon. Let me take some time. I wanted to talk with you about a subject that I think I'm going to not only dive into tonight, but it's a subject that I'm going to be probably talking about more in content this week and even in the coming weeks, because I think that it'll dovetail into some other subjects that are very relevant to our mental health journey. And this is the issue of the Christian, the Bible, and narcissism. And there's a lot that I have to say about narcissism, and I think it's an important one to address. And it will segue into topics like spiritual abuse. It will go into topics like trauma. It will go into topics like depression. It will go into topics it will really go into topics like healing from your family of origin and healing from what you grew up with, because narcissism is a very prevalent problem that has invaded our culture for a number of reasons, one of them being massive childhood emotional neglect. And a lot of people just aren't aware of how much the subject has impacted them. So I'm praying that what I share tonight will help give you some scriptural jurisdiction for this subject, because as you know, with Mark de Jesus, one of the things that I really bring is the idea of our mental health and our walk with God are not separate entities. And the Bible has a lot to say about mental health, but we tend to separate the areas. You go to church for church, you go to your psychologist for your mental health, and those pathways don't cross. And I really believe that needs to change, because we need to see God in our mental health journey, because he is all about helping to not only renew our mind, but heal our hearts and restore our relationships. Narcissism has become the product of the absence of healthy love and equipping. So without any delay, what I want to do is, all right, what does the Bible say about it? Is this just a psychological subject, or is psychology observing something that's been there and in some ways plagiarizing what the Bible already said about it? But first and foremost, what I want to do is answer the question, why should Christians understand narcissism? I'm going to give you a couple of reasons. I'll put them right up here on the screen. Number one at the top of the list is many of you've been raised by narcissists. Maybe one or both of your parents. Could be an overt or covert. There are differing categories of how narcissism manifests. There's a lot of resources out there and people that you could hear, some great, some people are just using the term so much it's kind of wearing it out, but I don't want to negate the importance of the term. Number two is that narcissists often go undetected in church. They're not just on stage. They're amongst us in the congregation. They are in boards, they're elders, they're pastors, many megachurch pastors have narcissism heavily influencing them, and we actually want what they produce. And that's the interesting relationship with narcissists, is many narcissists produce certain results, and we like those results, but then we are stunned when those results come with a heavy package of destruction and sometimes just evil and sin and unaddressed brokenness. You may work for, number three, you may work for a narcissist, work alongside, or maybe your boss, and it's important to have some understandings. Many people write to me and say, I'm married to one. And that creates a very challenging place of what do I do now? Because a narcissist has a series of traits that make it very challenging at all to have any movement forward of healing. And I'm going to get to that at the end of today's talk and my message today to help you realize the sobriety of how much this is affecting a relationship on so many levels. Number 5 is important for all of us to take in, and that's we all can have narcissistic tendencies. I would even venture to say that many, we as humans are born narcissistic. And there's 2 things that are needed in our life. One is a healthy upbringing to help us understand the world doesn't revolve around us and helping us to ground areas and so we grow out of them. As Paul said, when I became a man, I put away childish ways. Now that needs to be nurtured. That needs to be equipped. And many of us realize we didn't have that. Secondly, is as we become believers, Jesus refers to it as a born-again experience. And we go back to infancy and we grow up in Christ. It's a whole reboot of our journey. And a lot of believers haven't been equipped in, like, what does that even look like to be mentored, to be fathered in the faith? So people will write to me, Mark, I'm a narcissist. What do I do? Or maybe I am. And people that are panicking that they're a narcissist, you may have some tendencies. And that's important to be sober about, to be aware of. But narcissists don't typically ask for help, even wondering if they need help. They are shut down and blocked off to a lot of things emotionally. We'll get to that in just a moment. The sixth thing is that the Bible warns about them. And I'm going to get into today. I feel that at the end of this broadcast, I'm going to solidify that actually narcissism is a major part of the warnings of what the Bible was talking about in the end days. And here we are in the 2000s, so many years later when it was written. And as I bring it out, I hope you'll see it's just as real today as even when it was written. Number 7 reminds us that, or helps us to know, when you've been under the influence of a narcissistic person, there are many dynamics that come into play that you need to be aware of to recover who you are, to recover the health of your emotional life, to recover your compass, how you see yourself, how you see the world around you. So there's certain understandings that you need for healing. There's dynamics you're going to need to work through. Otherwise, you can get easily pulled into the vortex of what a narcissist carries. Narcissism is important to understand because we are living in the age of recognizing there is so much severe neglect. And when I say neglect, a big part of it is emotional neglect. And even down to actual physical neglect of your physical needs or just basic needs. But there is a lot of emotional neglect in an upbringing. And a narcissist, true narcissists, have in the depths of their heart significant trauma and neglect. And in that vacuum of emptiness formed what becomes the narcissism traits. So when you talk about narcissism, it's not just one thing. It's a cluster of issues. I'm going to get into a list of them briefly to just highlight them. You can go to a previous broadcast I did where love is not narcissistic. In my What is Love series, and you can get that today and watch through that. Some of it I'll repeat today. Most of it I won't. But anyway, it's a cluster, and I'll bring them out here. A narcissist, that term, just like the word trauma, is starting to get used as like a cultural word. You see someone who appears as though they need attention. They go, what a narcissist, right? You see one trait and you slap narcissist on it. It's a big ignorant. I understand what people are doing, but it's kind of like trauma, where we use the word trauma so much, we can go, hey, I went and saw this movie. It was traumatic. Or we can use trauma almost the same as the word stress, or like I'm stressed, I'm traumatized, right? We don't want to lose the importance of understanding the impact of trauma. Same thing for narcissism. We want to understand what it is. So when we get from a psychological standpoint, let me start with that. When you start with psychology, they have what's called the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. And there's a number of them. It started off as 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and now there's 5. And now psychology is in the stage where they have like a hybrid version they came out, because there's a lot of terms and stuff like that they're changing. I'm not going to get into that today. But what the DSM-5 is considered the Bible of psychology. It's considered the reference manual for what psychology uses, right? So this is not the thrust of where I'm going to go today, because I want to say what the Bible has to say about this subject, but I'm going to first start with the pointers, the things that they bring out in understanding narcissism. And first and foremost, I think there's 9 of these. First and foremost, a narcissist has a grandiose sense of self-importance. Some examples: they exaggerate achievements and talents. They expect to be recognized as superior of their achievements. So this creates a highly constructed, fabricated image of themselves that they live by. It's this persona, it's this shell, because deep down they're empty, they're neglected, they lack love, they lack a sense of self-love, so they're lost in that. So they create a persona and they spend their life guarding that persona. From a biblical standpoint, a classic example is the Pharisees. The Pharisees created a shell of a presentation that was inaccurate with what was really going on. The Pharisees themselves carried a tremendous amount of shame, but they created this image, a grandiose sense of importance. And the Pharisees and the religious leaders of that day, they also had a governmental relationship too. That's why when you see Jesus crucified, you see this interaction with the Pharisees. You see them interacting with the government of Rome, and this tie-in, and it fed this image and the sense of ruling over people. Well, really, in the background of a narcissist is no identity. No identity. The second thing is they're preoccupied, very preoccupied with the fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. They live in a fantasy kind of world and how they talk about things and make it very flowery, especially things they've been through, what they've gone through, or things that they see. And this gets into a psychological term called grandiosity, which is can get into like manic. Manic is another term we could dive into, of these pictures of what success or brilliance or things look like. Anything revolving their world, they want to create that kind of picture. Now, modern Christianity can get sucked into this very easily, because we can get sucked into what is success for a Christian. And we get sucked into big success, big money, big numbers, big platform. But at what cost? Because then what happens is we serve this big church, big thing, big, and our families get neglected. Our marriages get neglected. And now what we're doing is we're passing on the narcissistic cycle, because we're passing on neglect to our children. And because raising healthy children takes work. It takes working on yourself. And a narcissist doesn't work on themselves. So therefore, they are spewing their brokenness continually into the household, where it's damaging the children in significant ways. And many of you are realizing, this is what I grew up with. And so I think that Christianity has to be aware that we tend to follow many people that are narcissists, because narcissists get things done. They build big companies. They have big success metrics, or they have a way of talking to try to pull you into their story and pull you into the hypnosis of what they know and what they can do. The third thing is they believe that he or she is special, very, very special and unique, and can only be understood or should associate with other special or high status people or high status institutions. And so what they live by is they like to be around people that validate the shell, that validate the fabrication of what they present. And what a narcissist needs is it needs a relationship with you where they can feel like they're superior, where they feel like they are you're admiring what they're presenting, because then it creates a codependent relationship where you are in an inferior dependent position with them to respond to what is called narcissist supply. Narcissist supply, that feeding that what psychology would call ego, or feeding that sense of what they present and what they think that you see in them. But there's this sense of, I'm better than you, I'm better than others, but they don't want you to know they really believe that. They try to act humble because they don't want you to be seen. They want you to be seen as an imposter. There's a lot of games that they play. Now, within this, number 4 is they require excessive admiration. They require a lot of it. That's the narcissist supply, that you need to feed that, or else if you don't, it could then create rage connections, fuel resentment. It triggers their deep rejection because a narcissist is either the greatest victor or the greatest victim. Whatever it is, what they do is amazing and stellar and nothing it's superior, it's awesome. But then when their flaws show, they can jump right over to being the victim, and they are the biggest victim. And they want to pull you into that. And if you don't validate that, they get angry and they can often shut down and they will often move on. So narcissists can't have long-term, meaningful, connected, intimate relationships. Can't. True intimacy requires vulnerability. And they dodge it whenever they can. So you can many times see narcs moving from church to church or relationship to relationship unless they can maintain that sense of superiority, have that sense of power that they have in relationship. The fifth thing is a sense of entitlement. They feel very, very entitled to where they have an unreasonable expectation of favorable treatment. And in Christianity, this can flow into where kingdom principles become entitlement. I deserve this. This is who I am. So God, bring it to me. And so there's this entitlement of what God owes me. There's this resentment if God doesn't give it to them in the way that they want it. And they often feel in their entitlement, they're entitled to break rules, live the way that they want to. And that's why behind the scenes, the way they treat people, the way they live their personal life is very, very much in conflict with what they present. The sixth thing is that they're interpersonally exploitative. Wow, this gets into like some big words here, right? Basically, they take advantage of others for their own gain, for their own means, their own ends. They'll talk to you glowingly, maybe to you, right? But around you, things will change quickly. And this is where manipulation and control comes into play, because this is where gaslighting and creating this hypnotic image of what life should, what they feel you should see and how you should see things. So if you have a parent who does this, they tend to put things back on you of all the wrongs that you've done. They don't take responsibility, and they'll weave every situation to make themselves look good. And it breeds this smoke screen that is not reality, but we get conditioned and programmed into that. Number 7 is lacks empathy. And this is a very, very key bedrock aspect. And some people say, oh, I struggle with empathy. I'm a narc. Oh, no. They panic, right? And then there's a voice in their head goes,
yeah, you are, because you don't got no empathy, but I do. Miss Super Spiritual has all the empathy because God speaks to me all the time.
I don't know. I think church lady might be a narc. But this is the way relationships work is the foundation of empathy. It's the ability to have compassion, be able to connect with someone else is going through. Now, I never hear this said, and I want to bring this out because I see it in church. Narcissists can look like they are empathetic if it works for their image. So the classic example of this is the pastor on stage who's a narcissist, and he calls the person up, right? And they've been going through something, and he will minister to her and pray for her, and he might even shed a tear, and the audience is clapping. Oh, this is amazing, and he'll hug the person, right? It's all feeding the image of the presentation. So it appears that the person has great empathy, but the empathy is for presentation. It's very concerning when you think about this, right? Especially when you get to performance-driven church and what that looks like and where this kind of pattern could happen and take place. What fuels so much of narcissism in their neglect is envy, because there's so much emptiness that they feel in their heart and there's shame around it. They don't know what to do and how to heal. They can't humble themselves. So they are driven by envy. And envy is a key marker throughout. They are envious of others, and they believe that others are envious of them, and they communicate that a lot. Oh, they're just jealous, or they're picking on those games a lot, and they think about that a lot because they're in constant comparison, and they can't stand to see other people doing well in their area or living a good life or whatever. So what they'll do is they'll find flaws, pick them out, and to use that to disqualify. So if they see someone that's maybe showing success in a certain area, yeah, but look at their marriage, right? Right? Find a way. That's envy. That's just envy kicking in, and envy is a very, very toxic stronghold. Number 9, and this is the last one here, and then we're going to get into Bible, and not the psychology Bible, shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. Now this gets into the realm of pride because they never admit that they're wrong. They never humble themselves. And this is why true narcissists don't make changes, because they don't change, because they don't actually humble themselves. They may do it in certain ways for appearance, or like, for example, they may see that you're hurt and they'll go, I'm sorry you felt that way. They have like condescending ways of appearing that they're being humble, but really in their mind, they actually think they are never wrong. So they don't humble themselves, so therefore they can't receive correction, and they don't position themselves to ever receive correction. So this is psychology's, this is kind of a quick overview. And I'll get into some more, because what I want to do in future videos is talk about like some healing aspects as we start to discern this in our life and our journey. But let's kind of do an overview of the Bible a little bit. And then I'm going to drill down into a section in the New Testament that I think we need to pay attention to about what does the Bible actually say about the subject of narcissism. Now, some people out there, when you say, we're going to talk about what the Bible says, sometimes they can get so religiously legalistic, they need the actual sentence. Is the word narcissism in the Bible? No, it's not in the Bible. But these are the same people that if you say, show me that, if I say, God wants to have a relationship with you, well, show me where it says God wants to have a relationship with you in the Bible. Okay, it doesn't say that exact sentence. Right? If some of you are scratching your head, thank God you haven't interacted with people like that, who are like that, right? Many believers dismiss psychological perspectives altogether. And you know, those of you that are here, you get my heart, which is like, we're looking at this from God's perspectives, but we can also see psychological observations and patterns that can help us in our self-awareness and in our discernment. Now, if I was to look at the Bible and look at narcissism, I could start with Cain and Abel, because a lot of battles and problems do stem back to Cain, and do stem back to that moment where God says, Cain, sin is lying at your door. And certainly envy rises up, rejection root rises up, right? And brings out this revenge and brings out a whole domino effect, right? But where I would probably start with is the image of Pharaoh and the image of Nebuchadnezzar. When you study the Bible and look at the biblical context, Pharaoh is a great depiction of a hard heart. And many believers write to me, I think I have a hard heart. I think they're constantly diagnosing themselves. And I go, no, you're not. And they're like, why? I go, because you're asking. Okay. Sometimes you really need to see a true hard heart in action to actually know what we're talking about here. And Pharaoh is someone who really shows the narcissistic aspect of a hard heart, because in the midst of each plague, you see this progression where you see Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Pharaoh's heart was hardened. And then you see God hardened Pharaoh's heart, where God's going, here's what is happening in your life. Okay, we're going to escalate this to work for the purposes of what I'm doing. It's not like God just showed up to somebody and said, I'm going to give you a hard heart. This was already happening. This was already in place. And what you notice is that in the midst of calamity, in the midst of climate changes happening, where the weather, you're seeing, frogs, you're seeing the water turning to blood, all these plagues happening, and nothing changes him. For the narcissist, all of hell can break loose in their life. they won't budge. They could see their entire family weeping. It won't budge. You could see a narcissist pastor, the entire church saying, this is wrong. And that narcissistic pastor will become a victim and say, no one understands me, and will just continue to go on as though nothing happened except them being the victim. Nebuchadnezzar is a great picture as king of self-exaltation. Right? He builds this image and tells everyone to bow. I believe that image was a presentation of him. It was an image of him because he defied God. He had to get to the point where he became an animal and acted like an animal and lost his mind and went insane for him to wake up at least a little bit enough to go, okay, I need to recognize that there's a God. But what you see in this picture is the absolute stubbornness in the midst of undeniable correction. This isn't like, oh, I think I have a hard heart and I don't know. I feel like I don't have any empathy. As many OCD'ers who write to me, they have obsessive distortions. And we're talking about absolute stubbornness in the midst of God revealing opportunity to repent. And to the point of Nebuchadnezzar seeing himself as even higher than God. And throughout Pharaoh's journey, you see no empathy. And even when it hits his child, it's still about him and his revenge and his kingdom and what he has going. So it's a great picture when you see in leadership. Then as you look in the Bible and you see the kings, the kings of Israel and Judah, it's kind of like you see good king, bad king, good king, bad king, good king, bad king, good king, bad king, right? And you see the drive for power that takes place in the king. And at the time, the king was basically just ruling over, and what he said happened. And you would see an interesting cycle would happen where you see like a king that honored God, and then the next one, and sometimes it'd be like the descendant, right? It shows a parental disconnect. You see a lot in the Old Testament, you see parental disconnects. Now the next king is totally rebelling against his father's ways and going in totally different directions. And you see the neglect that's happening. Kings getting totally involved and probably not being present as fathers. You can even see this in the priesthood. In the Old Testament, for example, Eli the priest, who, very, very esteemed position in the Old Testament, a lot of responsibilities, but there's parental neglect there. You see his son, Hophni and Phinehas acting crazy, right? You see the disconnect of a father and his children. So that narcissistic behavior stems out of parental neglect. And one of the things that happens is this craving for power. I need to have this position. Because it's tied to that empty place in their heart. So whether it's having position over one person that you feel you keep in that narcissistic supply control system going, or crowds of people that you enamor with speeches and power. There's also the story of Jezebel, and there's aspects of Jezebel that bring out narcissism. Now, I believe there's a tie-in to Old Testament Jezebel and New Testament Jezebel, which Jesus rebuked in the book of Revelation. Some pretty harsh words. I think there's a tie-in. I don't think there's a coincidence. While there could be two separate people, I believe there's what's called a Jezebel spirit, which is like narcissism has a series of traits. Jezebel has a series of traits. I won't get into that. In fact, those of you joining my community, I have a whole series. Man, it is I went after it and really, really fiery taught through the work of Jezebel. And you can check that out. There's a whole series in the member community. You can go into that. But there's overlap because Jezebel has ways of manipulation and control as she operates in, to control situations, to manipulate through intimidation. And you see Elijah gets like, it's like he comes under a spell. He goes from an amazing victory to crashing depression, to like nobody knows the troubles I've seen. Where is God? Even God shows up. He's like, God, I'm still alone. He's not even hearing. God shows up. Many of you pray, God, if you just walk into my room. Well, Elijah had it happen. God showed up, and he still didn't listen to God actually showing up. He was stuck. And many people who've been raised by narcissists, been under narcissists, it's like you get under a spell, meaning that your sense of reality gets brainwashed. It gets just twisted and distorted. So you struggle to know what's up, what's left, what's right. You struggle to know where to land. And when you've been raised by a parent, calibrating reality becomes a challenging part of your journey. What Jezebel does is she messes with reality. She intimidates you, disorients you. So now instead of walking in boldness, you get spun out. And you're like, nothing's working. You ever go through times in your life where you're spinning out in depression? You are clouded by nothing's working. You're in pity. You're just spiraling, and you feel like you can't get your bearings. Some of that is the workings of the ingredients of a Jezebelic influence, which a lot of times the answer is wake up, shake it off. You're a man of God. You're a woman of God. Step up. Don't let intimidation push you back. Right? Because that's really the key in that area. But Jezebel and narcissists, the same thing. They don't want you to have good boundaries. And they don't like it if you try to put boundaries because it intimidates their power. And when Elijah did those miracles at Mount Carmel, it triggered that evil, unhealed, unredeemed place in Jezebel's heart. And certainly Jezebel is not just manifest in females and manifest in males as well too. But we're on the subject of narcissism, so I want to stay on that trail. But that's something that you can take into consideration. Now, we move into the New Testament a bit, okay? And I want to bring out the leaven of Herod. Jesus warned about the leaven of the Pharisees, which is the religious spirit. It's the rule of law. It's the toxic religious perfectionism that so many of us are trying to get set free from. But there's another leaven. And this leaven, it's like we're talking about bread here, ingredient in bread to make the bread expand and rise. And just as the leaven of the Pharisees creates an infection of religiousness without power, with law that dismisses grace, the leaven of Herod is something that we need to understand as well. What is the leaven of Herod? Leaven of Herod is the political spirit. It is the mindset of following the ways of politics. So in the Old Testament, a lot of government was ruled by kings. Maybe you could say that's like a form of a dictatorship. As the king goes, so goes everything, right? And you had good king, bad king, good king, bad king. This king wars over against that king, and this king over that king. Then we moved into where government moved into complexities. And a lot of modern government has been mirrored off of some of what was built in the Greek and Roman empires and how they structured things and how they structured the Senate, for example, in Rome, and how they divided up certain sections of government. So you see the picture of Herod. Who is Herod? Herod has lots of wickedness and lawlessness in him, but he is concerned about image. And this is where we see the rise of politics now, which is in effect today. Politics in itself is a cesspool of sin and wickedness with the concern of what's the image. So no matter what politician you like or don't like, there is a driving force of what does this look like? It's a giant PR campaign. It's a giant feeding of an image, feeding of a narrative, feeding to influence a group of people down a certain way to keep power intact, to move things in a certain direction. And with it comes a lot of evil baggage. That's what you see today. So the people, and I don't care which politician you like or don't like, the people that are in places of influence have narcissism influencing because there is a shell of what's presented and their image of what they present. There is a lack of empathy because they're constantly basically in debate mode, like a bunch of lawyers just arguing back and forth, trying to find those hooks and those places to get at, to destroy the opposition. And this was happening during Herod's day. And Jesus warned us, be aware of that leaven infecting your life and how you do things. Just look at churches today. How much of church is saturated with politics? power plays, power games, power struggles, arguments, debates, strife, and everybody thinks they're right. Everybody thinks their side is right, right? But the political arena comes in and it prevents people from humbling themselves. It prevents vulnerability. It prevents reasonability. It prevents true interaction. And so even the disciples, they were trying to shove politics into, Jesus's view, right? Hey, when are you going to overthrow this kingdom? Now, there is a day where Jesus is going to overthrow all and he will set himself up as King Jesus. That is a hope that we look to, right? Because we look at politics and no matter what country you live in, where in the world, it's like, it's exhausting. Now, I know there's people called to be in that place. I get that, but I'm just helping you understand big picture. When you enter into the arena of politics, it's an ugly game. It's a dirty game. And narcissism plays into the scheme of those positions and those places. Of course, we can talk about the Pharisees. In fact, do a reading, take the traits of narcissism, read the Gospels, read the interactions with the Pharisees, and see the traits manifesting of what they present. And Jesus called it out, and it brought out anger in them, right? The way that they felt entitled, because a lot of the rules that they would push on people were added rules that they weren't even necessarily following themselves, because narcissists will do that. They feel entitled to this. The Bible also talks about the love of many growing cold. I mentioned that in Matthew 24, because this sets the piece of what inflames narcissism's work because of the absence of love. I will do some more deep dive in the subject of the scoffer or the scorner, because I've been in the trenches of being face to face with many narcissists. And what often comes out, it's like a manifestation. The best way I can describe it, my charismatic people will get it. It might freak some of you out. It's like something took over their faculties, and I'm getting a scorning, haughty, prideful, it's like a smirk comes on their face as I'm sharing how their life is affecting people. And they are manifesting an expression that's actually opposite of what's happening in the moment. Somebody next to them might be bawling their eyes out. It might be a spouse. It might be someone that's working with them. And they're like, please. And you see this like smirk manifest. It's the manifestation of what the Bible calls a scoffer or a scorner. And I'll do a video on that separately, because there's certain protocols. Like don't bother rebuking them. Don't bother. Now we learn that the hard way. Sometimes we go in there. I've gone in there many times, and boof, came out with some bruises, right? Because they're influenced by foolishness. They're actually fools within their hearts because they don't welcome knowledge and insight through humility. We learn through humility. Now, where I'd like to go in just a moment, can I take another dance break? I think you should. Okay. I'm going to take another dance break for a moment, because now I'm going to get into the good stuff. And actually, Paul is the guy who warned us about narcissism, and I'm going to prove it to you in just a moment. But let's see, which 80s should I go into now? Was this the one from before, or is this? No, this is a different one. Okay. That's a good question. I'm going to get into that. That's a good jam there. I couldn't dance the whole time though, because I had to catch my breath a little bit. Any? You had one question you said came in. People are asking the question: can a Christian be a narcissist? Yes. Hold on. I'm sorry. I got you.
Yeah, you turned me off right there. Okay. But Creative Learning is saying, great teaching as always. Thank you, Mark and Melissa. But there was just a conversation, and I think it's a good thing to help people to understand, can a Christian be a narcissist? Because it does conflict in your mind. Well, if you accept Christ and you connect to those, everything that Christianity stands for, how can you be one?
Yeah. So it's like, can a Christian have bondage in their life? Can a Christian, some Christians believe that once you get born again, you shouldn't have any problems, and you shouldn't, you shouldn't have anxiety, you shouldn't have any, depression, nothing, and you should just walk and just float. So not the people, like the Bible does talk about falling away, and just talk about people that falling away, and I believe that narcissists are a part of that, and narcissists actually lead the way. Unfortunately, right? Does that mean if your mom's a narcissist, or your dad's a narcissist, or they're going to hell? Beware of that black and white kind of thinking. But what I'm going to share with you is there is a mixture of many traits that Paul actually warns about. It's all narcissism.
Yep.
So yeah. These are people, when the Bible Christians are obsessed with false prophets and stuff like that. False, is this a false prophet? This is a false teacher. The thing that Jesus says is they're sheep in wolves' clothes. They're not shepherds with fake clothing, right? I'm not saying that they're not at the pulpit, but that's what we get obsessed at. I want to put the spotlight on they're amongst the sheep, they're going bah, but they're not really, they're wolves. And what do wolves do? They're going to get in there and create a mess.
They just want all the attention.
Correct. They want the attention. They want power. They want influence, and
they want you to go to them for everything.
Yep. Where I find narcissists, I could look at mega churches and I could see narcissists on stage. All of us could do that pretty easily. You sit under the teaching for a while, you can see that, right? It's like you have to have that for mega, because those people, they get stuff done. They and get going or get out of the way. It's the mentality, because we got a thing we're building, right? And I'll talk about that at some point, but I also want to talk about amongst us. Because that's where I've seen the danger, is where, the pulling people aside, the divisive mindsets, the drawing attention to themselves. You see it with people with like rogue ministries, or they're doing power plays behind the scenes, and that's where a lot of concern that I have. Okay, so let me get back to this, because Paul. Let's go to 2 Timothy 3. I went there last week. And in 2 Timothy 3, I'll pull it up here on the screen. I mentioned this last week, and then after we were done, I said, that's where I want to go to next week. 2 Timothy 3:1, but know this, that in the last days, perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. My premise that I want to bring home to you tonight in this is that all these traits are actually the trait of the narcissistic bondage gripping someone's life. This isn't just a bunch of divided things spread out. So you got some over here that are despisers of good, or a little bit of the. These things, when you bring them together, they actually show the manifestation of what in modern terminology we call narcissism, because the term is still about, I want to say 150 years old. I could be off. It maybe even younger than that. Okay, there's a lot of terms that develop in language that we use to label things. This helps us to bring out lots of symptoms in one statement. So let's take a moment and just look at these words. He says, first of all, lovers of themselves. I talked about this last broadcast. I have a whole article on this. People go, oh my goodness, so if I try to look at myself lovingly, practice self-love in a healthy way, that means I'm lovers of themselves? No, that's not what it is. A narcissist does not practice self-love. They are actually disconnected. They hate themselves. They actually practice a lot of self-loathing, constantly feeling sorry for themselves. And so they pour their lives into the image that they've constructed. Narcissists are in love with the image they constructed. Got it? When you have self-love, you see yourself for who you are, and you see it through the eyes of love. Your goofiness, your sin, your struggle, you let love see it. So it doesn't lead you to be full of yourself, and it helps you to love others more graciously because you're loving others out of how you see yourself. So there's a freedom flow. Narcs can't look at themselves. They can't. They can't take a true inventory. It's dominated by shame, so they are in love with the image. This goes back to the story, the Greek story, where he's looking in the water, seeing an image. They're in love with a fake image, or really I should say infatuated with the image. So they're always guarding it and protecting it. The next trait is lovers of money. Because of their neglect, narcissists see money as a way of finding fulfillment. Money also can, when you speak of the world system and love money, money is not evil. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil, because their emptiness sees money, sees status, sees success as that is how I will find fulfillment. That's how I will belong. That's how I will achieve. And that's how I will be loved somewhere over the rainbow. Many narcissists are wealthy, rich. Many are poor. It's not like how much money they have. It's how they relate to money and what they see in the success of it. He also says they're boasters. A narc is constantly talking about him or herself, either in their greatest victories or their greatest victim. There's the working of pride. They're proud. And because narcissists have deep shame, pride pushes them to now create the image. You see, all of us in our journey, many of you watching this, those watching this live, at some point in your journey, you've humbled yourself. And you've said, you know what? I need some work. I need some help. I need some healing. And that's part of humbling yourself. But narcs, they avoid that at all costs. And when you confront or bring it out, get ready to get all their mechanisms to kick in. Now, I find this word interesting, blasphemers. You know, we talk so much about in my obsessive compulsive work, did I blaspheme the Holy Spirit? And interesting when you look up the definition of this word, the word blasphemous, think about it in the context relationally of how a person acts. Blasphemer speaks of someone who's constantly speaking evil. They are slanderous, meaning they speak evil of people. Then there's a word, when I looked it up in the original, the word railing. And we don't really use that word in English. So I looked it up in English to see what that means. Blasphemer, railing, what does that mean? It means to revile or scold in harsh, insolent, or abusive language. And the original word speaks of being abusive. So narcissists have an evil, abusive way to them. Right? So we're like, does the Bible talk about abuse? Yeah, that's right. You can go look it up for yourself and look at what this word means. So, but narcs always abuse in a way that's hidden. They don't want the world at large who know their image to know. You know, they want to present their great family, they're a great parent, they're a great spouse, or a great businessman, great pastor. When that gets hit, they're panicking. The Bible also says here, Paul says, disobedient to parents. I mentioned the parental disconnect, the wound neglect that's there. And with narcs, you're always going to know they had massive neglect growing up. So when the Bible talks about disobedient to parents, why are children chronically disobedient. I'm not talking about they're going through a phase. They go through their little phase, or they're going, their teenage years. You got little things you're working through. Talking about all out massive rebellion. It's out of a disconnect in the bond of relationship. When there's problems with the parental bond, is what spawns rebellion, right? So what spawns is, in fact, I remember in my youth pastoring days, we said this a lot when we talked to parents, and is that rules without relationship can lead to rebellion. Meaning it can't be just rules. It's got to be the bond. You have to develop a bond with your children. It's out of the bond that the teaching, the discipleship happens. But narcissists can't do that with their children. And narcissists didn't receive that from their parents. They never had a bond. That's why they don't have empathy, because they never had an emotional bond with their parents. And so therefore, many of them grew up and had to grow up fast. They were teenagers and had to act like adults. They had to survive quickly. So if they humble themselves and go, I got to know what it means to go back to childhood and humbly work through those things in an effective way, healing isn't going to happen. So this disobedience to parents, that's a real interesting picture. I've always found it fascinating, this section of it, because our parental wound forms so much, and people don't just suddenly, like a spell hits them and just start being disobedient. There's disobedience that is often rooted parental disconnect. And so what does that lead to? Now they have problems with authority. Narcissists they never have like authority that they sit under and receive from and receive correction or accountable to or able to receive instruction. That's why they don't really go to counselor's office. The only time narcissists go to a counselor's office is when their spouse is about to leave them and they're at DEFCON levels. And then they show up and the narc is rolling their eyes and they're like, well, she gets it together. I'm here because she can't. It's that kind of attitude and manner, because they're not correctable. They're not realizing where they need work in their heart. The next word is unthankful. Now, narcissists are entitled, so gratitude isn't an anchor for their life. They cope in life with self-pity if things go bad. They don't anchor themselves in gratitude, because gratitude humbles you. Gratitude is a very humbling thing. You become in awe of who God is. It centers you. It grounds you. Of course, last time I talked about, I'll get to unloving in a second. Unholy is the next one, which means wicked. They do and allow themselves to participate in wicked ways, and there isn't much of a check. They feel entitled to do those things. There isn't a sense of remorse over things that they have done or do, or how their life has affected other people. Not aware of it. The next one's unloving. I mentioned that last week. This has to do with affection and the inability without natural affection. So because they didn't receive affection, they don't know how to give affection, nor do they know how to give true empathy. They only know how to survive. They only know how to live in their competitive, in their power modes, and in those kinds of struggles. Unforgiving. Now, this word's interesting because when I was looking it up, it wasn't necessarily going around the line of like bitterness, unforgiving, although that could certainly be a part of a narcissist's life. But when I got into the meaning, it said this. It said they cannot be persuaded to enter into covenant. Very interesting. What does that mean? That someone can't get into covenant. What does covenant mean? Well, we have covenant relationship with Christ. You have covenant in marriage. It's a committed, intimate, all-in relationship. They can't truly do that. Why? Because that involves intimacy, vulnerability. That makes them squirm. Now, it makes many of us squirm. Covenant feels scary. I mean, it confronted my own life and my own journey of like working through issues. So just because you have this trait, most people do struggle with like committed, intimate. We're scared. We're afraid of it. But narcissists will dodge it at all costs. Because if they enter into it, it reveals they don't have it all together. It reveals that they got a lot of work to do. So they avoid covenant connection in their journey. So it's hard to get them into that like formal place of even relational agreement. They're slanderers. They also, they lack self-control. They can't contain their emotions. So their envy and their rejection and the way they have their image drives every day, and they go with it. It's like they can't help themselves. And Paul uses this word brutal, which means very savage and fierce, like a fiery, they're just not tame in how they operate with people. They're despisers of good. This phrasing, when you look at it, they despise good men. So when they see someone that is manifesting godliness, it irritates them and goes right up through every nerve of them, and then triggers their envious behavior, find ways to put them down. Paul says they're going to be traitors. They will betray you. And yes, they will. They will betray you whenever they need to improve their story and their position. They will be headstrong. They'll act rash and reckless, a stubbornness to just get their way. The word haughty I found fascinating because it means to envelop with smoke, to inflate with self-conceit. It's like this smoke and mirrors kind of image that they portray because they're very high-minded. They're puffed up with haughtiness. The word means to be filled with pride or conceit. And then it moves them into being lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Now, what does this mean? It means they're often addicts. They're often highly addicted in their coping mechanisms because they don't know how to comfort themselves. They don't know how to land in nurture because they never received it. They don't know how to like take certain pains in their life and process through it because they don't know how to experience love from God, and they don't know how to experience nurture from God. Now, many of you go, oh my goodness, I struggle with that too, right? But a narcissist blocks themselves from even receiving what they need because they're caught, and they are living in a cycle that prevents them from going, you know what? I don't know how to love. So what happens is there's a coldness to their conscience. So what's that?
I'm clapping. This is so good. This is so good.
Oh, thanks, son.
Oh my goodness.
So because of this, their conscience is they're justified in their behaviors. So a narcissist can have affairs, and no one knows until they get caught. And then when they get caught, they're like, I'm so sorry, it was terrible, because their image got tainted, not because of the damage that took place. Right? They feel justified in why they did, my wife wasn't, or my husband, or whatever. They get involved in dark addictions, and they have no check of conscience. This is why certain, I'm not trying to accuse, but it fits. Certain like famous pastors can preach these amazing sermons and see an amazing church service and go out that night and get a prostitute. Mm-hmm. How does that happen? Right? You go, how does that happen? Most of you go, I'd feel terrible. A narcissist lifestyle does that because they're lovers of pleasure. They feel entitled. They're blocked off to their conscience and being able to go, wait, something's wrong here. I need to deal with my life. No, there's no time for the pastor who gets a prostitute to deal with his life because his energy is not in dealing with his life. He doesn't spend any time dealing with his issues. He doesn't think he has any issues. Then, this is what narcs do. And this is the part that concerns me. They spread this poisonous perspective to their congregation. They go, we don't need to talk about the past. We don't need to with brokenness. The blood covers our sins. They start saying stuff to deflect because they don't want people engaging stuff that's going to threaten their brokenness.
Amen. Woo!
Okay?
Woo!
It's
good, y'all.
Don't yell too loud. You're going to hurt my
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I know, that's why I pushed the mic
No,
away.
You're good. Right? So then I'm going to get into some, I
just want to say a lot of the OCD'ers in the chat, I'm a narcissist. Oh my God. I mean, it's a lot.
It's hot.
It's hot right now.
Yeah.
Y'all, if you are saying it, you are not one.
Correct.
Okay? Please.
Correct.
We have to tear this down right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk to my OCDers because,
Please do.
Because the problem is, it's not about you being a narcissist. You've actually been under the influence probably of narcissists because narcissists produce a lot of OCD'ers. It creates a lot of spinnies.
Yes, that's so good. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. 2, can we all accept without spinning off the cliff that some of what we struggle is in this list? Can we all accept that? That there's days you're a bit headstrong. There's days that
Right. There's days you don't, like someone said, I don't like to receive correction. Who does? But you know what? You go,
Right.
ugh. Right. There are things that we can pull out that, yes, we all have things that, we're not perfect in and that we struggle in, but it does not mean that you are a narcissist.
if you, after this broadcast, said to me, Mark, I got to bring a correction to you. What you said here, that was not right. I don't know that I would automatically go, oh, thank you very much. That is amazing.
Right.
No, in a lot of cases,
It's hard. Right.
in a lot of cases, we have had that kind of exchange. We learn how to say things in grace and we receive it, right? But yeah. And so just because you see your symptoms here, what I want you to understand is Paul's talking about the narcissists are the ones that are going to take perilous times and are going to contribute to the falling away. Okay. All right. So, but those of you that are listening to this, you're looking at yourself. What you may not be recognizing is you may be product of this kind of culture. Many of you have been under narcissism in your church. If you experience severe spiritual abuse, and a spiritually abusive church requires that a narcissist be there somewhere. It just does. That's what makes it perpetually abusive, where there's no sense of like, hey, this is wrong, right? Families, upbringings, at work. Because I want you to be awake and sober to how this works so you can discern it. Then the next stage is how we can all begin to walk into some healing of that. So he says here, having a form of godliness but denying its power. What is this? They show godliness, but it's for show. It's for show. There's no walk of, hey, I'm walking a journey and I'm letting God work on my life. So they have sin patterns and there is no check with it. So what they do to you that's hurt you, they don't sit there and think, oh man, that was wrong what I did and what I said. No, they don't. They actually think, poor me, I have such a hard life. They're not thinking about you. And this perpetuates abusive patterns. Now, this is the instruction that he says here. From such people, turn away. Now, why? When they have this whole, because narcissists have all this. When you see the manifestation, Paul's going, don't hang around with them. Why? And this is the part I'm going to get to that might be controversial to some Christians. Go, wait a second. From such people, turn away because they won't change. They won't change. When you've been under the influence of a true narcissist, they won't change. You have to let it go. You have to let go trying to convince them, trying to rebuke them. I have quite a Rolodex list of narcissists I've tried to rebuke, to exhort, and my heart was good. It doesn't, you learn in the doing. But here Paul's exhortation is take your peace, step away, because they're not going to change and they're dangerous. Now, here's the danger that they bring about. We'll get into some of these verses that make people squirm. For this is what he says, for this sort are those who creep into household and make captives of gullible women loaded down with sins, led away by various lusts. People start panicking. Oh my goodness, is Paul like, why is he throwing the hatchet at the females? He's not. I'll explain this to you very easily. You know what Paul's saying here? He's calling out culture. I'm going to give you a statistic. Do you know who 75% of true narcissist personality disorders are? 75% are men. So they are going in and targeting certain situations to manipulate, to spew their devices, their ways, and their deception. This is why I'm so much about seeking for the heart of men to be humbled and to get our narcissistic tendencies out of our lives, because we all can say, yes, we have tendencies that we can move into. And if you're panicking over narcissism, you're not sober about your life. We have to move into sobriety, which goes, okay, I may have some of those things. Doesn't mean, if you're asking, it doesn't mean you're a narcissist. So all you in the chat, you're take your piece. But see what's happening? Always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Now, as Janies and Jambries, he throws them into the mix, resisted Moses, so do these also resist the truth. Okay, Janies and Jammies, they're practicing witchcraft. So this isn't like the guy that you had a disagreement with because you disagreed on when you think Jesus is returning, okay? This is where sometimes we immaturely throw the narcissist term out. Well, that guy was not nice. He's a narcissist, right? So he says, so do these resist the truth, men of corrupt minds, disapproved concerning the faith, but they will progress no further, for their folly will be manifest to all, as there also was. And this next verse is for so many of you that are within the chat today. But you've carefully followed doctrine, manner of life. Remember, I was talking about doctrine last week. Paul's going, you followed my doctrine. It's not just like a bunch of statements. It's like way of living before God, purpose, faith, long-suffering, love, persevering, persecutions, afflictions. This is you guys here. This is you. If you want to know where you are, this is where you are. I will venture to say many of you are learning how to persevere because you've been under the influence of a narcissist, and it takes perseverance to heal. And so my prayer for you all today is that first, you would get discernment in the world around you. Get a bit of discernment on your history. And what I pray from the bottom of my heart is, God, help us to latch on to the perseverance of your love and your grace to receive what we need in healing. Because I am inundated with people that are all showing the signs of being under this. And we need healing, God. The times get perilous. We need to not get afraid. We need to get armed. And I pray for a special grace to be seasoned on people's lives, that they would be awakened to how stuff affected them. We're not raising up victims, but we have to become aware of what's transpired, because it's infecting the world we live in, and it's hardening hearts. But we're getting our hearts healed. We're letting you heal our hearts, and I pray for that grace. I pray for our hearts to experience that more and more, and I thank you so much for that. In Jesus' name, amen. If this was a blessing to your life and your journey, do us a favor, support these broadcasts. Melissa and I are spending this time here out of our hearts, out of the grace that's on our life, to bless you. Like it, subscribe, and share. And would you do us a favor? Take a moment to consider donating, one-time donation to the ministry work. We don't push for money. We don't beg for money. We don't tell you, please do this, or else people are, we don't manipulate, but we do want to bring it to your attention. Go to markdejesus.com, click on the donate button, and we would really appreciate the support that you bring. Also, tonight, if you want to make an investment in your journey, join into the Healing and Freedom community. You can click on that tab. It will take you to more information on that. And we look forward to beginning that journey with all of you. Any last words before we go? I know I went a little bit longer today, but I felt like I wanted to take a bit of a journey, if that's all right.
I think this was amazing. I think that just to point out that there is two kinds of narcissists. There's the overt and there's the covert. And I think there's a lot of great material and books out there too for even understanding if you've been under the influence of narcissism. Because I think too, when you, especially if you are raised by a narcissist, there are things that you will manifest. And there are traits too that, like, you'll hear that seem very overt about a narcissist, and you go, well, no, that's not. But there are other traits when you're coming out of even a covert narcissist that really knows how to hide it well. And I would say, I think more women a lot of the time can be covert. I don't want to
Yeah, I get
I'm
you.
not an expert, but I think it's definitely well worth understanding if you're struggling in areas, even with, making decisions, fogginess, like there's so many things
Yeah, and when
to
I
understand that. I just wanted to point that out.
yeah, and when I began to start understanding this, I can't remember exactly how it started, but I think you and I were just kind of doing some reading and some research, and it started to dawn. We kind of go through some stages, and many of you'll relate to this.
Mm-hmm.
The first stage I go through as I explore is it's like, oh my goodness, is this me? You look at it and you're like, oh, we have a lot of these traits. That's normal. You have to kind of go through that and then get to sobriety and go, okay, yeah, I can see some tendencies there. But then there's a lot of blind spots that we had in this subject that we didn't realize. I know for me that I didn't realize its effect on upbringing and even in church life.
Yeah.
I mentioned this in my last broadcast on this, the one I did on What is Love. If I'd known this years ago, I would have handled a lot of church situations differently. Because I went toe to toe with narcissists, and it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Total waste.
I walked out of there like,
Yeah. You will be spun out constantly.
Yep.
And you'll think something's wrong with you.
yeah.
Always.
Some of them I spun out for years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I do think there's a part of recognizing it and understanding that you've been under that you have to give yourself a lot of grace and kindness in the recovery process and healing process in it.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's good.
I just want to acknowledge Jennifer Bailey for her super chat. Thank you so much. And Tammy Tours, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate all that.
Everyone is just, again, I love our tribe. I just am blessed by everyone's comments and love, and thank you all so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Laud Willen and the creek don't rise. Your brother from another mother.
Your sister from another mister.
Saying we'll be back with
more dancing, more fun.
That's it.
You know it.
Yeah, that's right. and insights. But in the meantime,
We out.
we'll see you all. Thank you so much.